Hello, and welcome to 12-Minute Meditation, a weekly podcast from Mindful that offers mindfulness meditations backed by neuroscience. Research shows that just 12 minutes of meditation a day can yield benefits like increased attention, focus, creativity, calm, resilience, and compassion. So on this podcast, we invite you to explore 12-minute guided meditations from today's leading mindfulness experts. I'm SIYLI Myram, editor at Mindful. When we're facing disappointment or challenge, it's easy to default to negative narratives about who we are inherently. Our internal dialogue might sound like, I'm a failure, what's wrong with me? I can never do anything right. This week, teacher Rich Fernandez invites a different perspective. When we shift from naming an existential trait, like saying, I must be a loser, to naming a temporary experiential state, like, I'm experiencing a setback that's discouraging, then we can actually return awareness and agency to ourselves and navigate a way through the challenge. Rich Fernandez has dedicated his career to building more purposeful, mindful, and high-performing workplaces. He is the former CEO of Search Inside Yourself Leadership Institute, co-founder of Wisdom Labs, and has also served in senior roles at eBay, JP Morgan Chase, and Bank of America. Currently, he is the head of executive development at Gap Incorporated. Ready to practice? Here's Rich Fernandez.
In this journey to being our best, to living with purpose, to living with meaning, we will encounter difficulties. We all do. We're human. Right? So I'm certain, without a doubt, that every single one of you, for example, will experience failure. I've experienced failure quite continuously throughout my life. Now, what's really important in that are the words and the way we think about failure. Because if you listen to what I had just said, I said, you will experience failure. I didn't say you are a failure. I didn't define it that way. And that's really, I think, the critical pivot point of resilience, is really to do what's called moving from an existential trait to an experiential state around the experience of difficulties. So if that seems very abstract, let me explain a little bit further. Very often when we meet challenges, it's very easy to kind of fall into a narrative about guess who? Oneself. Very often that narrative can be negative when we experience failure or adversity. Things like, I'm a failure, I'm unworthy, I'm inadequate, I'm incompetent, what's wrong with me? A lot of self-criticism. Easiest thing in the world to do. Our brains are actually wired for something called the negativity bias. It's an evolutionary phenomena where we attune to danger and threats and negative stimuli in our environment much more than positive ones. Some scientists and research say it's roughly at a rate of 3 to 1, actually. We pay more attention to the negative than the positive. And that is magnified when we experience challenges and difficulties. And so it's really important to be aware and to, in some ways, work counter to that negativity bias. All right, so this shift from existential trait to experiential state is what will help you turn that corner. It's something that I do a lot. So let me give you an actual example, from my own experience. Again, I run a nonprofit, and there have been periods where we are not meeting our key performance indicators, our metrics, core metrics, for example. In those instances, as the leader of this organization, I've found myself at times going, what's wrong with you, Rich? Man, I'm just not adequate. This quarter was terrible. I don't know what's wrong with me, right? And it's almost as if I'm kind of categorizing myself in this trait-like fashion, as if I'm not competent. When in reality, we as an organization experienced a difficult quarter. There were difficult conditions in the market and the ecosystem in which we work. And I, as a leader, had some challenges around that, to just think about how to right the ship, how to kind of pivot, how to think of different solutions with my team. And so the critical thing there is to note that I noted for myself. I remember there was a moment where I thought, oh, I'm just a failure. I'm failing at this quarter. This particular launch was a failure. And then I realized, actually, let me pause and think about, we experienced a failure. I experienced a setback and a shortcoming, right? I experienced a failure, right? I had the experience of failure. That's it. Rather than saying, I am a ... Right? So that's the critical shift. I actually like to call that, and in our Search Inside Yourself curriculum, we call that the liberating shift. The liberating shift from existential to experiential. So I'm going to offer or invite you to join in a meditation on that liberating shift, because to me that is the key factor in resilience, shifting from existential to experiential. Let me just say a few last words about that. When I say that, I mean to really inhabit this perspective that you are experiencing something, nothing more. It's just an experience. For example, emotion. Emotion, feelings, are actually physiological processes in the body. They come, they arise, we feel them, and then they go. Right? So it's actually a process that plays out in your body. When we're triggered and have difficult experiences and feel difficult emotions, those are also just physiological processes. They're not facts, they're not sentences or indictments, and they're certainly not traits. Scientists, again, we know from physiological science that emotion is a process. So when you experience difficulty, the encouragement here is really to see the difficulty and the emotion that arises, whether it's stress, anxiety, fear, sadness, whatever it might be, as a process and not as a trait. Okay? But let me offer you a meditation that allow us to experience this directly firsthand. So I'd invite you to sit in a way that is alert but relaxed at the same time, whatever that means for you. Closing your eyes if you'd like. And just softening the visual field by gazing downward. Taking a moment as we begin to just collect your attention and bring your awareness to your body. The felt experience of your body, wherever you find yourself. An awareness of your breathing, bringing firm but gentle attention to your breath, the in-breaths and the out-breaths. Just collecting your attention for a moment here, taking a minute to arrive with your mind and your heart and your body all in this moment, whatever this means to you. Now I'd like to invite, just as you are, this meditation on resilience. I'd like to invite you to consider a difficult situation or person. Nothing traumatic, but just something that was difficult for you, or a person that was difficult for you, say over the past week or period of time. Calling this situation or person to mind and noting what feeling or emotion arises when you reflect on this situation or person. What feeling is arising? What, in other words, are you feeling in your body? What sensation are you feeling in your body as you consider this situation or person? Could be something like, I am experiencing stress. Or with regard to a person, I am experiencing anger or frustration. Again, this is a difficult person or situation, so it may trigger difficult emotions, and I'm just focusing there for the time being. I am experiencing stress, or I'm experiencing frustration. Whatever it is you're experiencing, just noting it, I am experiencing. And now, just as you are, note how different that is from saying, I am stressed, or I am frustrated. I am experiencing. The process of experiencing, the process of the emotion is a process, is a state that you are aware of. Name it to know it. I am experiencing. And note how it may change as you name it and take note. Taking a small step back, as it were, taking perspective on the experience of difficulty. I might even encourage you to take the I out of it. There is the experience of frustration, because who is the I? There's simply this kind, loving awareness. There is the experience of stress. There is the experience of frustration in the body. Notice how that feels to take that broader perspective. The liberating shift between I am stressed or frustrated to there is the experience of stress or frustration currently in the body. Whatever that emotion is for you, bringing this quality of awareness that is the experience of, there is the experience of, fill in the blank. There is the experience of. And just see how that feels in the body, the experience of. There's the experience of in the body. Just that. And now there's this and this. These experiences and emotions arising and moving, changing in the body. All right, as we end this meditation on resilience, again, just taking a few last breaths at your own pace, reconnecting with your breathing. And as you're ready, opening your eyes and rejoining. I think it's really important to bring in this capacity to shift. It's really a capacity that we all have to take perspective and in some ways to subtract ourselves from the equation, right? Because we have an experience. We do have an experience. Stress is real. Difficult emotions are real. I don't mean to suggest here that we should suppress or deny or push them away, but I'm suggesting that we be in wise relationship to them, as one of my teachers, dear teachers, John Kabat-Zinn likes to say. So, wise relationship to our difficulties, to the difficult experiences that we have is that liberating shift that will affect resilience. So I hope that was useful for you. This will conclude the 4-module series that I've offered you on meditations for living with meaning, purpose, and resilience. I'd like to end with a poem that really kind of brings all of this together, that really brings the idea of tuning to what's alive within you and standing in that place with strength and resilience. So I call this poem, I've written this poem myself, and it's called The Quiet Invitation. In the vividness of the journey from being to becoming, amidst the flickering dance between action and reflection, alignment emerges. A close knowing, a path glowing faintly in the mists of imagination, not so much chosen as revealed. Even as you stand blinking in fear or wonder, there comes the still, quiet voice at the center of things, that sweet, gentle calling that whispers, "This is true. This is good. This is alive now." You are called, an invitation to wholeness in this everyday arc of your life. So with that, my friends, thank you so much. I wish you all well.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of 12-Minute Meditation from Mindful. I hope you enjoyed practicing with us today. You can access dozens of articles and guided practices through our free app at mindful.org/app. And if you'd like to explore additional related content and meditations on this week's theme, check the show notes for links.